So, I'm a little bit late to the party, but as a fan of director Steven Soderbergh and writer David Koepp, I've been meaning to see Black Bag since its release in cinemas last month. 6 weeks have passed, and after a disappointing box office performance, Black Bag has dropped on Netflix, but not before a number of fawning reviews have called it one of the best films of the year. And so, last night, I duly strapped in for the 90-minute ride. But my immediate feeling is this: what's the fuss all about? Michael Fassbender plays intelligence agent George. He's softly spoken, barely human, a neat freak, similar to his characters in The Killer and Prometheus. I don't understand this Hollywood fixation with slow-moving, robotic, porcelain-like protagonists who are more android than earthling, although of course in the case of Prometheus it was justified. In this movie, however, it's a problem, and I'll explain why later on. Fassbender's wife, Catherine, played by Cate Blanchett, works at the same intelligence agency, and she brings a bit more vigor to proceedings, though their relationship doesn't have a huge amount of fizz. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this is not. George, Fassbender, is pitched as the ultimate truth extractor. He is in charge of the lie detector test in the agency itself, and he is known to be the best at getting people to reveal their secrets. As he himself says, he doesn't like liars, although the film seems to either ignore or forget or gloss over the fact that he is constantly dealing in deception himself. At any rate, he's entrusted with finding out who in the agency has stolen a top-secret piece of software which can act as a weapon and is known as Severus. There are 5 suspects, one of which is his wife Catherine. The others are 2 couples, Freddie and Clarissa, and James and Zoe. To find the truth, George, Fassbender, starts by staging an almost Agatha Christie-like sit-down at the dining room table. The goal? To test each of his suspects. When his wife, who is also in the crosshairs, asks him if he got what he needed, he says, "I don't know yet. That was the rock. Now I watch the ripples." The Severus program, which has been stolen, is something of a MacGuffin. It doesn't really matter what it is, it's just a plot device to get us to care about the investigation. All well and good. The problem is that Black Bag can't work out what it wants to be. It's half global affairs spy movie and half detective story. We have to hear why Severus was built, why it can't fall into the wrong hands, and we even have to watch a drone strike. So, if on the one hand it's a spy movie, the other half of the movie is, as I mentioned, pure Agatha Christie. We get the dining room table scene at the beginning and a like-for-like dining room table scene at the end. We also watch George put his suspects through a polygraph test with some inventive questioning to boot. These bits are Black Bag at its best. It's all extremely reminiscent of the stories involving Agatha Christie's detective Poirot, who would assemble his guests and then reveal who the killer was. The problem is that George is a poor Poirot. He's wooden, robotic, and lacking in emotion, a quality that the supporting cast picks up on regularly. By contrast, Agatha Christie's celebrated detective is eccentric, full of quirks, whimsy, verbosity. He's a character, a big character. Some people online have complained that there's too little action. I would argue that's not the issue. The issue is that it lacks real character development. The supporting cast, despite having potential in spades, are criminally underused. Freddie, played by Tom Burke, and his partner Clarissa, played by Marissa Abela, are the 2 most interesting people on show, with a warped, dysfunctional relationship which could have and should have been explored more. The only real look we ever get at their dynamic is via the 2 sit-down scenes at George's house that bookend the film. The other supporting cast do interact on occasion, with psychologist Zoe counselling Catherine, George's wife, and James and Zoe holding a brief conversation, which proves that the film isn't supposed to be solely from George's point of view. But that only begs the question, why weren't we privy to more of the scheming and double-crossing going on? Then there's the river, where George goes to fish and clear his head. As hobbies go, it's a pedestrian one, but the location is reused later in a scene that had the potential to be brilliant, a la Talented Mr. Ripley. Sadly, in this case, the tension is extinguished before it can really reach boiling point. And that sums Black Bag up. Just as it's warming up, it pours cold water on the flames. The first hour is light on character and unable to serve up meaty plot-thickening developments. Is George's wife the mole? This question is cleared up with 30 minutes to go, and at least from this point forwards, Black Bag has the room to stick to a landing, but it could have been and should have been so much more. Had Koepp fully committed to the genre of detective story and not tried to write a spy movie as well, he might have really started to revel in the scheming and machinations of these supporting characters. There's nothing wrong with setting the story in an MI6 type of environment, but if you're going to rely on dialogue over action in this setting, make sure you really ramp up the stakes as much as possible. In the end, the movie is cool, calculated, and lacking in feeling, much like its main character, and it inspired a similarly lukewarm reaction in me.